creating conversation and then sharing it. Arrow.net, ARROE.net. We are unplugged and totally uncut with Femi Fadugba.
Yeah, I'm doing very well. Glad to be here.
Oh my God, dude! I got to give you kudos here. The way you write, the way you allow your imagination to put pictures inside our imaginations. It's not magic. You're just listening to the universe move through you.
That is a beautiful description. We should swap jobs, mate.
I'm with you on that thought. Let's go there for a moment, because I'll tell you what, through Nidra, which is a form of meditation, I can really relate with this book, because it is about making things grow forward and helping them without challenging them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting, that, isn't it? I mean, what I've done with the world that I've described in the book, I mean, I guess for background, for some of the listeners, it follows a couple of teenagers, and one is a kid named Esso, 16 years old. And he, in the process of running to catch a bus to school, sees a kid about to get run over and pushes him out of the way, and gets hit himself and knocked out, not just out of consciousness, but out of reality as we know it, and into this place called the upper world. So to your point, mate, I think it's interesting, because I use the upper world to describe time the way that physics describes it. And so on the one hand, you have this physics visual that I provide in the book, but it really also relates to very deeply human psychological experiences. And so it doesn't surprise me at all when you mention meditation, because he literally is unconscious and in this place where he can see the past, present, and future all at the same time. He can step in them as he wishes. Unfortunately, he sees one bad vision in his future at the end of the night, which he realizes he has to figure out how to prevent. But yeah, that's kind of it brings it full circle a bit.
Doesn't it also serve as an invitation for readers to say, hey, look, I realize that you've something in your past has become a burden, but you can learn from this book and learn to grow with the process?
Absolutely. That's a beautiful point you make, because I think that was one of the things I struggled with is what am I trying to say ultimately with this book about time? Because you tend to have two camps of people when it comes to these kinds of issues. You have the camp that say, just think about the future and forget about the past, just move forward. And then you have the other camp who say, no, we are products of our future. Sorry, products of our past. We're products of our past, and we have to look at that and address that as well. And I think my answer has always been, it's not an either-or thing. Like, both camps are obviously right, to me at least. And so time travel provides the perfect vehicle to explore that, right? With the future representing hope, but also fear, and the past representing nostalgia, but also regret. And so there's so many different ways that you can play with that. But I really did want to just send that message across. The titular character the main character is a 16-year-old boy who goes through some difficult stuff, and I'd gone through some issues very similar to what he experienced in my own life. And there's this thing where you kind of need to move forward, but every once in a while it requires you to look back with compassion before you can take that step in the now to go forward.
I got to ask you about when you were putting the words down in paragraphs, which became pages and stuff like that. Did you have music playing in the background? Because there's a melodic flavor to the way that you place words in formation.
That's incredibly insightful of me. I absolutely did. Throughout, I had music. I mean, so I wrote a lot of this in the UK, but also in Africa as well. And so in the end, even when we came to making the audiobook, which has some great narrators on it, by the way. Got a couple of Hollywood actors, Tom Mucci and Ruche Opia. And we decided to put original instrumentals to the audiobooks. We got a drill beat. I don't know if you heard of drill music that's big in the UK. And then also Afrobeats instrumentals to the back of it. But it absolutely did influence it. There's a great quote by Zadie Smith where she said, one of the reasons why books aren't necessarily as big in certain communities is because music has almost taken the place of it as a storytelling vehicle, with books not having seen certain communities as much. And so for me, yeah, it was just like, how do we take the best of that world and that spirit and imbue it in the pages? Because I think there is something to be said for the format of a book where you can go deeper.
Are you a daily writer? And the reason why is because you're a great storyteller. And daily writers experience things that others would rather push away. And you seem to put a lot of stuff in this that's very relatable.
A daily writer? What is that?
In other words, a journal. You're keeping a journal.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Do you know what? I'm not as consistent as I should be, but I do keep a journal. Yeah. And it's just insane how much clarity comes out as you just start writing with that pen. And it doesn't need to be pretty, but it's incredibly insightful. And I do find that, yeah, it's funny when you're writing how your subconscious has a way of slipping into what you produce.
So true.
Yeah. So, yeah. I think it's probably the link there.
So how much trust do you put into stream thinking? In other words, it's like, okay, my fingers are going to do the work, but I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to be in the front row of what's about to happen.
Yeah, it's a combination of both. And if anything, I think I need to get back to putting more faith in stream thinking. I'm writing my second book now. Yeah. The sequel for The Upper World. And I've been a bit more heady about it and a bit more structured and planny. And in some ways it's been helpful because it'll save me in terms of the number of drafts, but I need to get a bit more into just trusting my fingers to let the story go where it needs to go. Because your subconscious is just exponentially more powerful than your conscious mind. But it is helpful to have a map. And so, yeah, I definitely am not one of these people who says you shouldn't plot at all.
Femi, did you go through what I call a fermenting period? In other words, you got the story out there, but you set it aside and came back as the reader.
That's a good question. I did, but it was quite short. Probably like 3 months. Like 3 months. I finished the first and second draft. I sent out to a couple mates, and I just gave them some time to read it. And I tried my best not to open it up for that whole period, just because it's so easy to get lost in the source. And yeah, you just need that distance. It's like anything in life. I mean, it's the same way that's easier to give advice about someone else's life than it is to give yourself that advice. I think it's the same thing when it comes to creative work. You got to get that distance a bit.
Oh my God, it's going to be so much fun to watch you grow. Oh my God, I just cannot wait to watch your future just blossom, dude.
I appreciate that. I really do. I really do.
Please come back to the show anytime in the future, Femi, because the door is always going to be open for you.
Yeah, of course, of course. I really appreciate it. I'd love to be back.
All right, man. Will you be brilliant today, okay?
I shall. Cheers, mate.